Hello everyone and welcome to Motorcast. It's the first of our F1 2017 season previews. We're kicking it off then with Sauber, Renault, Haas and Toro Rosso. But I'm not alone then for this preview. We've got Alex and we've got Niran. How are you guys today?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
Yeah, not too bad on this fine evening.
Excited for a new generation of Formula 1, Niran? Is this going to reignite your love for Formula 1?
Well, I'm hoping so. I mean, it's been kind of promising because obviously I like the look of the cars. I like the cars more than the last generation. So I'm hoping that will reignite it maybe. But it's more about the battling on track. So we'll have to wait and see as to whether that is of standard.
Alex, are you excited for this season?
Yeah, I'm in the onboard laps we've seen so far, especially the qualifying runs. That one from Raikkonen looked very, very nice. But obviously, like Niran said, we're yet to see what it's like in terms of overtaking. So I think I'll make my decision after Australia, to be honest.
Very good, very good. If we made it after last year, I guess it might be a bit false because, of course, we had a pretty decent race into what Ferrari might be able to challenge Mercedes. But I know what you mean. we can have 1,000 articles, can't we, from Motorsport and whoever kind of trying to predict what's going to happen this year. But at the end of the day, we're not going to know until probably after this season. But let's get straight into the preview, starting off with Sauber, the team that finished 10th in the championship last year, of course. Last of the kind of current teams. They did beat Manor, but of course they are no more, which basically means that Sauber really don't have any rivals. Is that fair to say now, Niran, that they might just be left at the back, or do you think they might have the resources and after this new investment to catch a few teams up?
I don't know. I mean, the thing they're going to have to hope for is that they're good at the start of the season because Sauber are always left behind when it comes to development. I think it was 2015 where they started off really good with NASA and then just slowly dropped off because they don't have the resources usually to compete. But so yeah, if they are going to have rivals, they need to be good at the start of the season. I don't know. In terms of results at the start, probably McLaren, because McLaren have lacked pace and lacked consistency or reliability. But I think in terms of the overall Constructors' Championship, I would be surprised if they're in a real battle with any of the midfield runners, to be honest.
And Alex, how much is that year-old engine gonna hurt them this year?
Yeah, I think it will hurt them quite a bit, actually, to be honest, with especially with Renault stepping up their game a bit with their engine. I do rate Sauber's driver lineup quite highly. I think Wehrlein obviously nearly got the Mercedes seat, so has to have something about him. And then Ericsson, I do think, is a little bit underrated, to be honest. Sauber they went about their business quite quietly in the winter, so they got in the laps. They had a few problems, but that was like every other team really. So like Niran said with McLaren, I think towards the start of the season, Sauber are going to have to be looking to pick up a few strong results there before the development starts to pick in really. And I don't see any reason why they can't get on towards the back end of the midfield with their new investment, but it will definitely be a struggle for them as the season goes on.
The car looks reliable, so that's something good for them. Like, they've not had too many. I don't think they've had too many issues with any of the three drivers that I think Giovinazzi had a few issues, but apart from that, they've got some good mileage. So that's at least something they've got going for them, even if the pace isn't that high.
And mileage as well for Giovinazzi, Niran. You must be pretty happy with that.
I flipping love Antonio Giovinazzi. I really wish he'd got a drive, and I think he genuinely would have done if Manor was still in Formula 1. But it's nice to see him get this affiliation with Sauber because it's a foot in the door. Obviously, he had the Ferrari the Ferrari sort of young drivers program. He was sort of brought into that over the winter. Obviously, I don't want to be already speculating as to who's going to be driving next season. That would be ridiculous. This season hasn't even started yet. But it would be nice to see him on the grid in the Sauber or any of the cars that are affiliated with Ferrari. But it was nice to see him out on the track.
Yeah, and we'll just round off then with a prediction for Sauber. So I want who's going to come out on top in the battle between Ericsson and Wehrlein, and also can they finish anywhere other than P10 in the Constructors, starting off with you, Alex.
That's a difficult one. I'd love to say Ericsson will come out on top. Sorry, but you have to go with Wehrlein really, just logically, given his kind of links with Mercedes, how well he's done with Manor. You have to say Wehrlein is probably the favourite to come out on top, but I don't think it'll be totally one-sided. And again, I'd love to say they can get maybe higher than 10th in the Constructors, but I just can't see it happening, to be honest. I think they will score points, but I think they will finish 10th.
Yeah, I'd probably tend to agree with that, to be honest. I think they'll finish 10th. They've got one of the nicest cars, like looking wise, on the grid. I mean, that's something. But in my opinion, anyway. But I think they'll score points. I think they'll definitely score points. But I don't think they'll be higher than 10th. In terms of the driver on top, I'm going to go for Giovinazzi. He's going to get a mid-season drive. I think I agree with Alex. I think it'll be Pascal Wehrlein, but I think it'll be close. I don't think it'll be one-sided. But Marcus Ericsson is secretly quite a quality driver, so I think it'll be close between them. But I think Wehrlein will just about come out on top even.
Yeah, I certainly hope so. I mean, I think Verlaine's definitely the quicker qualifier. He's very quick off the line, so maybe if he can get a Sauber into positions high up earlier on, and hopefully trying to stay there. And I think Ericsson's going to be a driver who's going to kind of, keep his head down, probably bring the car home fairly often. And I think with a few good strategies as well, he could be a guy that kind of comes out of nowhere at the end of the race and gets a decent result. So, yeah, hopefully Sauber will score some points in 2017. Sorry.
Mexico last year.
Yeah, of course, with Mexico, and I think it was unlucky there wasn't it, but he didn't score points. I think he definitely deserved them. So of course, Ericsson and Verlaine then for Sauber this year. Of course, they finished 10th in the constructors last year, and Renault finished 9th, which of course was a bit of a nightmare really for them on their return to Formula 1. But of course, 2017 already looking very, very optimistic for them. They seem to have made loads and loads of strides with their power unit, and of course Hulkenberg set the 8th fastest time of testing, and Palmer was in 12th, so some decent pace shown in testing from Renault. And although the reliability doesn't seem to be quite there, it definitely seems a marked improvement on last season. And they seem to be making some pretty good strides near it.
Yeah, definitely. I'd be pretty motivated if I was Hulkenberg or Palmer. This seems like it's going to be a car that's towards the top end of the midfield, the midfield scrap, if you like. It's nice to see like another works team actually, finding time and finding pace in the power unit, because it has been very much a Mercedes versus Ferrari sort of situation, apart from obviously Red Bull with Tag Heuer or whatever. But it's nice to see the works team doing well. Obviously the chassis last year was horrendous, so at least they've had some time to work on that. But I hope that Hulkenberg can challenge for some really high up points this season. But yeah, it's very promising from Renault over testing, certainly.
And one man that I think definitely wants to see Nick Hulkenberg finally on that podium is a certain Alex.
Yeah, well, I think Hulkenberg has already said that there's 4 teams that look clearly quicker than anyone else, and obviously you'd assume that's Mercedes, Red Bull, Ferrari, and then probably Williams, 4th at the moment. So he has said points might be difficult to get all the time, but I would say, given their investment and the finances, you'd think Renault would probably have the advantage over most midfield teams. And they have looked quite strong. Obviously, you'd have to say they're probably taking the biggest step up in terms of performance out of any team in testing. And I think they could probably challenge the likes of Force India this year. I don't see any reason why not. Obviously, they're still a work in progress. They're not yet where they want to be, which is at the top in 2 or 3 years, I think they said. But I don't see any reason why they can't challenge for 5th in the constructors this year. They've looked good in testing so far.
And Niran, where do you peg them in terms of the constructors order?
The problem, I mean, it's difficult. Once you get below that top 4, it's a minefield in terms of like who's actually top of the pecking order. It's the same as last year, really, if not even harder. But I'd probably agree with Alex. I think somewhere 5th or 6th is going to be realistic. I think that 5th, 6th, 7th zone is just going to be a full-out brawl between Toro Rosso, Force India, and Renault, personally. But I'd say 5th or 6th at the moment. Certainly, they've looked pretty good over testing. I don't think they've had too many issues as well with reliability. So I don't see why they can't challenge for that top sort of 5th or 6th.
And is Palmer destined to be beaten by Hulkenberg? Does anyone doubt that?
I'm going to choose my words carefully here. No, I think Hulkenberg is definitely the favourite, but Palmer was definitely improving towards the end of last year, with the exception of just driving straight into someone in Brazil. I can't remember who it was actually that he crashed into. With the exception of that, he started to put in some pretty decent performances last year, so I don't think it'll be as clean cut as everyone thinks, but Hulkenberg's definitely got the edge, I would say.
Alex, what would be a good season for Palmer?
Well, I think it's fair to say he does get a little bit of stick, to say the least, on social media. But I don't think he's as bad as people make him out to be. I think because people expect when a British driver comes into F1, given what Hamilton and Button have done, they expect a British driver to kind of come to the top. And when Palmer's kind of in the lower midfield regions, he kind of gets a bit more stick than someone else might. But he has definitely improved. We've seen in GP2 what he can do. And although even being... I might be a Hulkenberg fan, but I don't think he will finish ahead of Hulkenberg in the championship. But I think he, as long as he doesn't fall too far behind in the championship, maybe finishes 1 or 2 places behind him. Obviously, it all depends on how the points work out and stuff. But I think if he could maybe push for a top 12, maybe even pushing higher than that if he possibly can in the championship, just score points on a regular basis and take advantage maybe of when some of the faster teams don't have such a good race, to get himself like consistently into the points, which is something. It's kind of his next step, really.
That was the thing with Palmer as well. Like, sometimes he wouldn't take advantage of things that were happening around him, like Hungary, where he had like points in his hands and he just spun off. And it was like, that was your chance. Like, it was the same with Ferrari when it came to winning races. They just seemed to throw away chances. So he needs to make sure he does that in next season if he's going to do well. Grab that top 12.
Yeah, I think that's pretty crucial as well, of course, for next year as well. I mean, like you said, we don't really want to be talking about the driver market for 2018, but I think if you have to identify a weak spot in terms of the manufacturer teams, you do look at the likes of Julian Palmer. So he's under a lot of pressure this year, but I think, like we've said, I think he'll probably do slightly better than I think most people are expecting. But obviously, like we said, we don't expect him to beat Hulkenberg. And then as for Renault, 5th or 6th, I think, is a pretty solid bet for them. Let's move on to talk about Haas then. Of course, they entered Formula 1 in 2016 and marked improvement on the 2010's new teams, that's for sure. I think overall a decent debut season for them. Of course, they really did benefit from those opening 2 rounds, and I think it was 18 points scored in the opening 2 rounds, so they really kind of relied on that. But of course, still they did look pretty solid throughout the year. Did have kind of brake issues and kind of a few strange issues which weren't really brought to light. And I think it was a solid debut season for them. But of course, now it's the second season. Are they going to suffer from a second season syndrome?
I get a relatively bad feeling that they are going to be honest. Haas is a strange one because. In terms of just the driver lineups, quickly, I'll go back to the original question in a second. But Kevin Magnussen and Romain Grosjean, you almost feel like why, without like demeaning Haas at all, why did Magnussen and Grosjean choose Haas over the potential of driving for the Works team Renault? I always find it quite strange. But maybe they'll, that choice will prove to be right. But in terms of testing so far, obviously Haas were. Sort of quite far below Renault, or at least Hulkenberg anyway. But yeah, I think Haas might struggle a little bit. If they can have a good start to the season again like they did last year, then that's going to be helping them massively. But yeah, I don't see them improving upon what they did last year, personally.
Alex, what do you think? Do you think they can beat their 2016 total?
Well, when you get a new team coming into F1, and then when they're still quite new, obviously only coming into their second season, and you get such drastic rule changes, it's always going to be difficult for them because they're still finding their feet, and then things change so quickly. So they haven't looked particularly special. I mean, Grosjean's still complaining about the brakes this season. I mean, you'd have thought they'd got that sorted over the winter, but doesn't seem like they have at the moment, and obviously that really hampered them towards the back end of last season. They haven't looked too bad in testing, but I don't think they'll be able to maybe compete quite as highly as they did at some points last season, because I think we saw them at their best able to get in both cars into Q3 in something like Japan, I think it was. But I think they might find that quite hard to do at any point this year.
And Kevin Magnussen then, do you think it's his last chance in Formula 1? I mean, of course, he came in with McLaren in 2014, then had to sit on the sidelines in 2015, then moved to Renault, of course, in 2016, and then kind of left that team. Kind of voluntary, of course. He didn't want to wait around for the offer they eventually gave to Palmer, because, of course, it was probably only going to be a short-term deal. But it looks like Magnussen's kind of got a long-term future there at Haas, but Alex, can he really build or kind of rebuild his Formula 1 career there?
Yeah, I think he has been a bit hard done by, to be honest, so far, especially, obviously, with McLaren. I think everyone did feel quite sorry for him when he got dropped there. Renault, again, he was quite limited with what he could do. I mean, he did have a couple of good races with Renault, but there's not really many drivers who would have been able to get that car into the points consistently. I can't see any reason why he can't have kind of a long-term future with Haas, because I mean, apart from Ferrari, they Haas are kind of outcasts from the rest of the grid, if you get what I mean. They don't really have that many links with kind of the rest of the driver market. Magnussen's, yeah, he's kind of like a solid driver, so I can't see any reason why he can't potentially match Grosjean. I mean, obviously coming into the team, it's always going to be difficult, but I can't see any reason why. Well, he definitely won't embarrass himself, let's put it that way.
Magnussen and Grosjean seem like the most on par driver lineup in the whole field. I feel like Magnussen versus Grosjean is a very close one. Just like leading on from what Alex said, I feel like the only thing that can stop Magnussen from having more than one season at Haas is if like basically the only guy who's a young driver and linked to Haas is like Charles Leclerc. If he wins GP2, whoever loses out in that Haas battle might have a slightly difficult time or a slightly difficult conundrum on their hands, because obviously Haas is the most likely place that he's going to go, not Sauber, I feel.
Yeah, I think obviously Leclerc in Formula 2 this year is a rookie. Like you said, if he won that,
it would be quite a feat. But if it was to happen, then that would be probably the only thing that would stop either Magnussen or Grosjean having that seat next year.
To be fair, not that GP2 really gets you very far.
Yeah, that's a point. He'd probably end up in Super Formula, wouldn't he, realistically?
Well, yeah, you say that, Alex, but they've renamed it Formula 2. That will solve all the problems.
Yeah, 100%. No issues with that system whatsoever anymore.
But no, I mean, of course, Giovinazzi had a great rookie season in GP2, and of course, he didn't get a full-time drive, which is a shame. But like you said, it was kind of just how it fell out, of course, with Manor leaving the sport. So hopefully both Giovinazzi and Leclerc will be on the grid in the near future. But we'll have to see how that one shakes out. Anyway, Niran, you said it was close between Grosjean and Magnussen, so now I'm going to push you off the fence, and you're going to have to fall on one side.
It's a difficult one. That's a tough one. I feel like they're both drivers who I don't know, who could easily be in seats higher up on the grid without causing offence to Haas. Like, certain points in their career could have led them to higher seats. Anyway, it's going to be very close in my opinion, but I would probably just about side with Grosjean in terms of the battle between the two of them personally. I feel like given he's worked in that team as well for a season, he's got some sort of advantage there. And I feel like he's slightly better at extracting more time out of cars that aren't necessarily as quick.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, he's had quite a bit of experience of that, pretty much since 2014. Alex, where do you sit on this one?
Yeah, I can't really look past Grosjean finishing ahead in the championship, to be honest, because, obviously he's had the year experience in his team, and especially if Haas are going to be perhaps towards the lower end of the midfield this year. Like Niran said, he was particularly good last year at kind of getting the best out of the car, and especially we saw that with Lotus as well when he was there in 2013. He was very good at kind of getting the maximum out of the car. So I think he'll probably be one of those drivers that scores points every time he has a possibility to do so. And maybe Magnussen's still got a little bit to learn coming into the team and has still got a little bit to prove. So maybe he'll be under a bit more pressure. And I think Grosjean will probably finish ahead this year.
Yeah, I do feel sorry for Grosjean, to be honest. I mean, obviously, like you said, he did such a good job in 2012, especially 2013, of course, when he stopped crashing. And I think he has been really, really wasted. And I think we need a reminder of what he was doing at the end of 2013. And it's probably not going to come this year. I'd probably say Haas for P9 in the constructors, probably only beating Sauber. Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah, I think so. Unless McLaren don't improve, but I think they probably will find their feet eventually.
Yeah, I was going to say exactly the same. P9 is probably destiny as far as Haas is concerned. But again, if McLaren have an absolute shocker, then you never know. But I just feel like they're just off the edge of that midfield battle. A bit like Sauber, they're not quite in that scrap with the likes of Toro Rosso and Renault and Force India.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of teams are getting their act together, aren't they? Like Renault, obviously, who they managed to beat last year. Obviously, McLaren should be kind of getting their act together by now. So I think they can't really rely on that. And like we mentioned, the midfield is so tight, so hard to predict. So it's kind of like they could finish P9 or they could finish, a lot higher up. We'll have to see. But certainly that association with Ferrari will definitely be helping them. Especially if Ferrari have a good year, I think that's probably going to be kind of mirrored in Haas. But of course, that will be for our third part, and we'll have to see if the guys doing that preview will predict Ferrari to beat Mercedes. But That would have to be an even bolder prediction, I think. Takes a brave man to predict that. But let's move on to Toro Rosso then, and Niran's boy, Carlos Sainz.
Man, I love him. I love Carlos. Sorry, interesting introduction there. I'm happy for him that he's got such a good-looking car. No, I'm kidding. I'm looking forward to seeing what Carlos Sainz can do, because he's always been the guy that's been overshadowed by Max Verstappen. As bad as that is, it is the truth, and I feel like they are equally as good. Genuinely, not because I support Sainz. Even when they were both at Toro Rosso, Sainz was very unlucky in his first season. He had so many more mechanical failures than Max Verstappen did. That's not excuses, but it is genuinely the truth. And when they were racing together, they seemed very well matched. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do. But obviously for him, it's going to be very difficult to break into that almost immune Red Bull partnership that's Ricciardo and Verstappen. You don't see that changing really at any point in the near future. But hopefully he has a good season. He had a good testing. 7th best time overall is pretty solid, and the best of the rest, if you like, behind Red Bull, Williams, Mercedes, and Ferrari. Obviously, I personally just really hope he can actually show his potential off, and that the car doesn't gradually get worse, because obviously we had this in 2016 where the Toro Rosso just gradually fell off the cliff at the end. Hopefully they can keep up with the development this season as opposed to dropping off, and he can get a chance to really shine throughout the entire year.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty solid prediction, and obviously, like you said, Sainz had so many issues in 2015, and I think we were both kind of shouting excuses for him, of course, because the excuses were there to be had. He was having so many issues, and if you look at the points gap, it was 48-20 between Verstappen and Sainz, and obviously that really didn't reflect the true difference between the two of them. But yeah, I think it's a good opportunity for him to kind of lead the team. Let's talk about Danny Fiat. That's an interesting one, because I think everyone, I didn't really see a single person last year who was saying, Fiat will be in that car next year, until he was confirmed. Everyone was just expecting Pierre Gasly, of course, to earn promotion. He won the GP2 championship, but no, Fiat got the nod, and he's got, this is his 4th season in Formula 1. What can he do about it, Alex?
Yeah, I think everyone, you just have to feel sorry for him after what happened last season, because he was doing a solid job, to be fair to him, but I think Helmut Marko just went for Verstappen in the Red Bull so badly, because, he sees him as some next level talent. But you have to feel sorry for Kvyat, because clearly for the rest of the season he couldn't show his full potential. He was, every time you saw him in an interview he looked quite sad, really, and that's just the way it was. But I don't think he'll be able to compete with Carlos Sainz, but I can't see why he can't have another solid season, to be honest. He was decent in 2014. Again, he was kind of brought into Red Bull because Sebastian Vettel leaving. I don't think they really planned to promote him so quickly, but I can't see any reason why he can't do a solid job. He's usually a consistent driver, so I think he should be in for quite a good season.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Of course, it will depend on the car he has. Obviously, the Toro Rosso are pretty notorious for providing some pretty quick cars. Obviously, they don't have the biggest budget, but of course, with help from Red Bull and obviously some very talented designers in James Key and his team. But they've kind of always historically underachieved, in my opinion. They've always had pretty good cars that can kind of regularly challenge for points, but reliability has really, really cost them. And if you look at this stat, the highest they've ever been in the Constructors' Championship is 6th, and that was 1 year, and that was 2008, of course, when Vettel won. And of course had basically the same car as a Red Bull. And since then, they've got 7ths and 8ths, and it really hasn't been that great. Niran, do you think that's going to change this year, or do you think? From testing, we've seen that reliability has been a big issue, and do you think that's going to hamper them again?
It's a difficult one, but as you said, it has definitely been I'll say a minor issue, because it could have been a lot worse, e.g. McLaren. But it's been an issue for them. And it's always seemingly been that way. I really hope it's not, because it would actually give these guys a chance to actually really prove themselves. Daniel Kvyat is going to be begging and praying that this car's bulletproof, because he's going to need all the help he can get, realistically. Because personally, I feel if he doesn't finish in the top 10 or 11 in the Drivers' Championship, it's Gasly in, realistically, because Red Bull are cutthroat like that. But yeah, I fear that it could be an issue for them again, especially after testing, and obviously their filming day as well. Before testing even began, they did 4 laps, and then the car broke down or something when they were filming the car in what track was it? I can't remember. Misano, I think. So yeah, I feel like that could be an issue. Hopefully not as bad as it has been in recent years though, and they can actually challenge for 6th again, or potentially even better.
Yeah, I think we have seen in recent years that they've had at various points the potential in their car to finish higher than sort of 7th, 8th in the constructors. You see, sort of every single year we see at some point they've sort of got the 4th, 5th quickest car, but then again we saw towards the end of last year they could hardly even get any track time in at all.
Barely get to Q2 most of the time.
Yeah, and so they just really need to sort out the consistency. I mean, in that midfield battle's so tight that reliability kind of means everything, and like maybe one good race is always what decides perhaps 2 or 3 teams even in some situations, and Toro Rosso just need to get that consistency going really, where they're finishing in the points consistently throughout the whole season. Obviously, when it comes to development, Red Bull are always going to get the priority, but Toro Rosso, if they ever want to kind of match Red Bull, which I think is unrealistic, but if they ever want to kind of move up into that kind of higher section of the midfield, they're going to have to sort out that reliability as a first priority.
Yeah, definitely. That's definitely been holding them back. I think, were we all saying that Sainz is going to be a finish ahead of Fiat?
Yeah, I would say so. I'm judging off last year. I think Fiat's going to have a pretty stellar season if he's going to beat Sainz.
I mean, it was strange though, wasn't it? Obviously, they're so renowned for being cutthroat, and then yet they kept on Fiat.
Yeah, strange. It's completely against what they usually do. You felt as if it was nailed on that Gasly was just going to get slapped in the car, but
yeah, I think maybe it would have been just a little bit too harsh to kick Fiat out of the Red Bull and then kick him out the Toro Rosso again at the end of the season, because yeah, he didn't really do anything wrong apart from that race in Russia, obviously. But you can't really kind of destroy his F1 career just off that one race. And even surely Helmut Marko must have been able to see that Kvyat's form last season was affected by being dropped to Toro Rosso.
Yeah, I think it was more of a case of what Max Verstappen could do in the car really than what Fiat was doing in the car at the time. But I think they were kind of proved right there, weren't they, in the end, obviously, with Verstappen going off and really giving the Mercs a headache. And obviously he looks like a title contender, whereas I think with Fiat you never really felt he would, challenge for titles. But it's all in the past now. Fiat's got to move on, and hopefully he has, and hopefully he can have a decent 2017. That rounds out then our first part of our previews. Of course, 4 teams there, and unless there's anything else you guys want to add, I think I'll wrap it up here.
Nah, apart from McLaren will probably be in this exact review next season, because they'll probably be in the bottom 4 of the Constructors' Championship. I'm done. That's it from me.
Where can we find you then on the social medias? Where can we find some...
God, that might changed. Yeah.
Rip Hill City fan.
It's now AlexC_2000. That's it. I almost forgot it.
And mine is at the official FNG.
Yeah, so of course all the Twitter links will be down in the description below, but if you do want to type them out manually, then there you go, you can do that. And of course you can find both of them, of course, here on Motorcast, and of course their own YouTube channels as well. If Alex is going to decide to upload anytime soon, we'll have to see. But he's going to be on here anyway.
Yeah,
so
I'll be on here. That's it, I think.
Who needs their own channel? I mean, obviously apart from Niran, because we don't do FIFA on here. But,
I'm deleting it. I'll just join Motorcast instead. Rip FNG.
Anyway, I think that means that we have to finish the podcast right here. So you guys can leave your thoughts and opinions on all thing Haas's and Saubers and Toro Rossos and Renaults as well. All your thoughts on Hülkenberg and Sainz. Gutierrez, should he be dropped from Haas? That's a big one really. He should still be here this year. And on that note, good night.